Hey guys, welcome you all in T3P Technology to the Point. In this video, we are going through AWS DevOps Certification Exam. The full name of this certification is AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional Exam. And this is the part one of the series. And in this video, we will understand from where we can start preparing for this exam. So if we will talk about the AWS certification path, as we know that AWS Cloud Practitioner is the first level 1 certification exam for AWS. From here we can start preparing our foundation knowledge. So this certification is based on fundamentals. So if you have not gone through the content of that one, I would suggest before appearing for this exam, you should go that one, so you will understand all the AWS services what we are having. Then we have few certification in associate level, that is level 2 certification. In that we have in architect domain, operations and developer. So these two certification, one is for operations, one is for developer. We have two associate level exam, and in this exam, in this video we will talk about this the professional exam, that is AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional. And what they recommend, you should have 2 years of comprehensive experience in designing, operating and troubleshooting solution using the AWS cloud. That means that you only the foundation or fundamentals and the knowledge about the services will not help much in this case. That will help to prepare, but prepare for this exam. But if you have only that much of knowledge, you will not able to pass this certification. So you should have the understanding of how we can design AWS solutions as per the requirement, and how the things operate there, how we can troubleshoot if there is any issue with the solution. So this is what we have. And also AWS have few specialties certification in networking, in security, machine learning, Alexa skill builder, data analytics and databases. So that is based on the specialty or your job requirement, you can get those certifications. So here we will talk about this certification, that is AWS DevOps Engineer Professional. Now we will talk about this exam format. So if we will talk about in this the topics which cover this whole exam, there are 6 domains that consist: software development lifecycle automation, that covers 22%. Then we have configuration management and infrastructure as a code, that covers 19%. Infrastructure as a code is something like you are automating building or installing or configuring your infrastructure. That is the infrastructure automation, that is normally in general we known as Terraform. Okay. Then we have third domain that covers monitoring and logging. Fourth domain covers about policies and standards automation. In the fifth domain, we have incident and event response. What kind of incident happens or event can happen in our AWS solution. In the last, we have high availability, fault tolerance, and disaster recovery kind of solutions. We need to design and prepare those. That covers 16%. So here what AWS, as per AWS, what they tell, you should have 2 or more years of experience in provisioning, operating and managing AWS environment. Also you should have experience in developing the code in at least one high level programming language like Java, Node.js or Python, Ruby, or these are the things we have, means the high level programming language. Then you also should have experience in building highly automated infrastructure. Also you should have experience in administrating operating system. That means that you should have the experience of development, plus you should have experience in operations as well. So that's why that comes like DevOps. In the last, they are saying you should have the understanding of modern development and operations process and methodology like microservices, containerization. These things also you should have the understanding. Let's see, now we will go through few questions that will help you to prepare for your exam. So the first question we have: which of the following tools does not directly support AWS OpsWorks for monitoring your stacks? So always whenever you go for the certification exam question, you just try to figure out if they are asking in positive or negative. Here they are mentioning does not directly support AWS OpsWorks. Sometimes we get confused, we don't skip that word and whole meaning of the questions get changed. That creates the confusion while going through the option. So the option we have: AWS config, AWS CloudWatch metrics, AWS Cloud Trail, AWS CloudWatch logs. So before going through the options, let's go through the AWS OpsWorks. What it do? AWS OpsWorks is a configuration management service that provides managed instances of SAP and Puppet. SAP and Puppet. What are these SAP and Puppets? SAP and Puppets are automation platform that allow us to use code to automate the configuration for our server. So these are the automation platform for the code. Okay, so now let's go through the option. So what they are asking, does not directly support AWS OpsWorks for monitoring our stacks. So the answer for this one is AWS config that does not support. The rest three supports the monitoring of our stack. If we will talk about CloudWatch metrics, it you OpsWorks you if AWS OpsWorks stacks uses AWS CloudWatch to provide custom metrics with detailed monitoring for each instance in the stack. If we will talk about AWS CloudTrail, it's used to log every AWS OpsWorks stacks API call and store the data in an Amazon S3 bucket. So it also helps. And in the last, Amazon CloudWatch logs, it is used to monitor your stacks system, application, and custom logs. So it also helps. So these three components supports AWS OpsWorks for monitoring our stack. AWS configuring not support. So this is the correct answer here. Let's see the next question. In this question, they are asking, how can you resolve a dependency error when using CloudFormation? Use the mapping attribute, use the parameter attribute, use the depends on attribute, use the error attribute. To resolve a dependency or error, we need to add depends on attribute to resources that depends on other resources in our template. In some cases, we must explicitly declare dependency so that CloudFormation can create or delete resources in the correct order. So what's the correct answer? Use the dependency on attribute. Let's talk about next question. What would you set in your CloudFormation template to fire up different instance sizes based on environment type? For example, if your environment is prod, then we need to use m1.large. Otherwise, we need to use t1.micro. That means what are the settings we need to configure in CloudFormation templates? The option we have: outputs, resources, mappings, or conditions. So to fulfill this task, we need to use conditions. So our answer here will be conditions. If there is only one condition, we can configure normally. If we have multiple conditions, then we need to use comma to separate those conditions. So here our answer will be conditions. Let's talk about next question. Which of the following is not a component of Elastic Beanstalk? The option is application, environment, Docker, application version. If we will talk about the Elastic Beanstalk component, then application is the component of that, environment is also a component, or application version is also a component of that one. Docker is not the component. So here they are asking not a component. So our answer will be Docker here. Let's talk about next question. You work at a company that makes use of AWS resources. One of the key security policies is to ensure that the data is encrypted both in REST and in transit. Which of the following is not a right implementation which aligns to this policy? The option we have: using S3 server-side encryption to store the information, enable SSL termination on the ELB, enabling proxy protocol, enabling sticky session on your load balancer. As I already mentioned, we always focus what they are asking in the question. So they are asking which of the following is not a right implementation. So using S3 server-side encryption to store the information, that is the correct. But for in this case, it is not correct as per the answer. Enabling SSL termination on ELB. See, if we will disable SSL termination on ELB, the traffic will be encrypted. So all the way to the backend. So SSL termination allows encrypted traffic between the client and the ELB, but cause traffic to unencrypted between the ELB and the backend. Okay, so that's why disabling is the good thing for implementing, but here they are asking about not a right implementation. So our answer will be enable SSL termination. These options are not correct. That is enabling proxy protocol or enabling sticky session on your load balancer. That is not correct. But in this case, they are asking not. So our answer will be second one. Let's talk about next question. A user is accessing RDS from an application. The user has enabled the multi-agent feature with the MS SQL RDS DB. During a planned outage, how will AWS ensure that a switch from DB to a standby replica will not affect access to the application? The option we have, RDS will have an internal IP which will redirect all the requests to the new DB. RDS uses DNS to switch over to standby replica for seamless transition. The third option we have, the switchover changes hardware, so RDS does not need to worry about access. The last option we have, RDS will have both the DBs running independently and the user has to manually switch over. So the thing is, here we need to ensure that a switch from DB to standby replica will not affect accessing to the application. In this case, what will happen? The correct answer is second, where RDS uses DNS to switch over to standby replica for seamless transition. So DNS help in this case during a planned outage. So our answer is second. Let's talk about next question. Which of the following will you need to consider so you can set up a solution that incorporates single sign-on from your corporate AD and LDAP directly and restrict access for each user to a designated user folder in a bucket? We need to restrict each user to a designated folder in a bucket. We need to choose 3 answers from the option. So let's see what we need to consider. Setting up a federation proxy or identity provider, using AWS security token service to generate temporary tokens, tagging each folder in the bucket, configuring one AM rule, that is not AM, that is IAM rule. And the last we have setting up a matching IAM user for every user in your corporate directory that needs access to a folder in the bucket. So what are the following can help us so we can set up a solution that incorporates single sign-on from your corporate AD or LDAP directory to the AWS cloud. So federation proxy and identity provider can help us. So setting up a federation proxy or identity provider is the first choice. Then using AWS security token service to generate temporary tokens is also one of the good option. And the third choice will be configuring IAM role. That can also help us to have restriction for each user for some dedicated or designated user folder in the bucket. So our answer will be first, second, and fourth. Let's see the next question. Which of the following features of the auto scaling group ensure that additional instances are neither launched or terminated before the previous scaling activity takes effect? The option we have: termination policy, cooldown period, ramp up period, or creation policy. So the auto scaling cooldown period is a configurable settings for our auto scaling group that help us to ensure that auto scaling does not launch or terminate additional instances before the previous scaling activity takes effect. So our answer here will be cooldown period. We need to remember this thing. Let's talk about next question. You are DevOps engineer for a company with stack policies in place. You have been requested to create a rolling deployment solution that is cost effective with minimal downtime. How should you achieve this? We need to choose 2 answers from the options below. So the first option we have: redeploy your application using a OpsWorks template to deploy Elastic Beanstalk. Redeploy with a CloudFormation template. Define update policies on auto scaling group in your CloudFormation template. Use auto scaling rolling update attribute to specify how CloudFormation handles updates to auto scaling resource group resources. And the last, after each stack is deployed, tear down the old stacks. So what they are asking? They are asking, with stack policies in place, you have been requested to create a rolling deployment solution that is cost effective. So here we need to identify the cost effective solution with minimal downtime. So first let's talk about the AWS auto scaling group. Auto scaling group resource supports an update policy attribute. Okay, so this is used to define how an auto scaling group resource is updated when an update to the CloudFormation stacks is occurred. Next thing, a common approach to updating an auto scaling group is to perform a rolling update, which is done by specifying the auto scaling rolling update attribute policy. Update policy. So what we will use here, we will use the option second and the third. The second option is redeploy with the CloudFormation template, define update policy on auto scaling group in our CloudFormation template, and also we will use auto scaling rolling update attribute to specify how CloudFormation handles updates to auto scaling group resources. So this is, so our answer will be second and third. Let's talk about next question. Just one more thing, why the option 1 and 2 is invalid? Because it if we will talk about the first one here, because it is not efficient to use ops work to use elastic beanstalk. And why this is not correct? Because it is invalid. It is an inefficient process to tear down stacks when there are stack policy is available, so we can't do it. That's why these are not the correct option. Our answer will be second and third are correct. Let's talk about next question. Next question is, your application is currently running on Amazon EC2 instance behind a load balancer. Okay, so there is one ELB. Your management has decided to use a blue-green deployment strategy. How should you implement this for each deployment? So what we will do, before that one, we need to understand what the option we are having. The option first is saying set up Amazon Route 53 health checks to failover from any Amazon EC2 instance that is currently being deployed to. Using AWS CloudFormation, create a test stack for validating the code and then deploy the code to each production Amazon EC2 instance. Create a new load balancer with new Amazon EC2 instances. Carry out the deployment and then switch DNS over to the new load balancer using Amazon Route 53 after testing. Launch more EC2 instance to ensure high availability. Deregister each Amazon EC2 instance from the load balancer, upgrade it and test it, and then register it again with the load balancer. So let's understand what we will do. We will first create a new ELB, that is load balancer, which will be used to point to the new production changes. Then what we will use after creating the ELB, we will use the weighted round robin policy, weighted route policy for Route 53 to distribute the traffic to these two load balancers based on the traffic scenario. Either it can be 80-20, 60-40, it's all, the percentage can be changed based on the requirement. And in the last, finally we will when all the changes have been tested, Route 53 can be set to 100% for the new load balancer. So now, so for this one, our answer will be the third one, where we will create a new load balancer with new EC2 instances, carry out the deployment, and then switch DNS over to the new load balancer using the Route 53 after testing. Why the option A is not correct? Because this is failover scenario and cannot be used for blue-green deployment. Because in blue-green deployment, we need to have two environments running side by side. Here we are not having two environments, right? So we can't use this one. So this is not correct. This option is not correct because we need to have a production stack with the changes which will run side by side. So that is also not correct. This is also not correct because this is not a blue-green deployment scenario. Okay, so we cannot control which user will go to the EC2 instances. So that's why our answer will be the third one. Just note it down. Let's talk about the next question. Your team is investigating existing AWS tools to help them better understand where and how the sensitive information is stored and accessed in AWS. You found that AWS Messi can meet the need as it uses machine learning to analyze, classify, and protect data. It also provides a dashboard to show several key interest points such as high risk S3 objects and total user session. Which AWS service are the data sources for AWS Messi? And we need to choose two options for this one. The option we have AWS CloudWatch, AWS CloudTrail, AWS S3 bucket, AWS config, AWS EBS volume. So for this one, our answer will be AWS CloudTrail and AWS S3 bucket. Why AWS CloudTrail? CloudTrail is the data source for AWS Messi. It is the data source, okay. And why S3 bucket? Because when AWS Messi is being configured, S3 bucket can be selected and its object will be classified and monitored. So that's why our answer will be AWS CloudTrail and AWS S3 bucket. Let's see the next question. There is a very serious outage at AWS. EC2 is not affected, but your EC2 instance deployment script stopped working in the region with the outage. Okay, what might be the issue? The option we have, the AWS console is down, so your CLI commands do not work. S3 is unavailable, so you can't create EBS volume from a snapshot. You use to deploy new volume. AWS turn off the deploy code API call when there are major outages to protect from system floods. None of the other answers make sense. If EC2 is not affected, it must be some other issue. See, the EBS snapshots are stored in S3 bucket. Okay, so if we have an script which deploy EC2 instances, the EBS volumes need to be constructed from snapshot stored in S3. So that's why S3 is, our answer will be S3 is not available. So we can't create EBS volume from a snapshot. So our answer will be second. Let's see the next question. You need to perform ad hoc business analytics queries on well-structured petabytes of data. Data comes in constantly at a high velocity. Your business intelligence team can understand SQL. What AWS services should you look to first? The option we have Kinesis Firehose plus IDS, Kinesis Firehose plus Redshift, EMR using Hive, EMR running Apache Spark. See, if we will talk about Amazon Kinesis Firehose, it is the easiest way to load streaming data into AWS. So first option should be with Kinesis Firehose. Now, what it do? It can capture, transform, and load streaming data into Amazon Kinesis Analytics, Amazon S3, Amazon Redshift, Amazon Elasticsearch service. And it's enable near real-time analytics with existing business intelligence tools and dashboard. You are already using that one. So our answer here will be Kinesis Firehose and Redshift. So our answer will be the second. Let's talk about next question. Your company has an e-commerce application accessed by users all over the world. You have EC2 instances deployed in multiple regions. You want to monitor the performance of these EC2 instances. How can you use CloudWatch to monitor these instances? The option we have, create separate dashboard in every region, register instances running in different region to CloudWatch, have one single dashboard to report metrics to CloudWatch from different regions, and this is not possible. So we can monitor AWS resources in multiple regions using a single CloudWatch dashboard. So our answer will be have one single dashboard to report metrics to CloudWatch from different regions. So our answer will be the third one. So guys, that's it for this video. I hope you like the content, and I assume this video will help you to prepare for your AWS DevOps exam. I am working on other parts as well. So don't forget to subscribe and like this video. If you have any suggestion, you can mention in the comment section. If you have any doubt related to any question, feel free to ask. I'll help you within my capacity to explain or resolve that query. Thank you for watching once again. See you in next video.